Hello, everyone. I just wanted to quickly hop on before the episode started fully to just say that one, thank you for all the support for us to get to season two of the podcast. Season one is all wrapped up and finished. You can find that on YouTube and all the other streaming platforms. All 12 episodes are there. So you can go back and watch them if you're new, or if you want to go back and watch them on your own. They're all there for you to go enjoy. But I just wanted to say that this episode goes hand in hand with a short film that the guests that joined me were a part of making. So I recommend going and watching that first, and then you watch the podcast because we dive into the behind the scenes and a lot of the how the thing came to be or how the short film came to be. So I do highly recommend to go watch that. The link to that is in the description. So if you want to please click on the description and you can watch that and then come back and watch this episode, because then you can actually start seeing a little bit more of what they were talking about and what they're explaining throughout the episode. It will just help you a little bit get a little bit more background info about what the conversations are. But other than that, I just want to say thank you. It's been a dream of mine to work on this, and you guys have allowed me to continue to work on this dream, and I just hope that we can to continue this journey that we started last year. But without further ado, I'll let my hosting self take over and start the episode. 2, 1. Wairiji ka khalsa, Wairiji ki fateh. My name is Gurinder. I am your host of the JMC Chronicles. This is season 2 of the podcast. Season 1 wrapped up last month, and it was 12 episodes, one full season, a whole year of doing the podcast. But this podcast is, again, like I said, episode 1 of a new season, and we're looking forward to this season just as much as we were looking forward to the first one. This episode, we're joined by some truly talented and amazing folks. Let them introduce themselves one by one here in a bit. But like always, this will be available on YouTube. It will be playlisted as season 2, and then also on Spotify, Google, and Apple. So wherever you like to listen to your podcast, you can listen to the non-audio version or the visual version here. So without ado, I'll let the panel introduce themselves. I'll start with Ritu. You can introduce yourself first and just say like what you're doing, and then like what's your name, and just everything else about like what we're talking about today.
Okay, I'll start. Hello, my name is Ruth Taliwal, and I'm the one that directed the film we're going to be talking about today, Dhundh. And it is based on the reality of abusive relationships. So it is my first project. It is my first short film. Um, I will be using this for my film portfolio because I'm hoping to go to film school. But this project was more than that. It was also just because we want to address a lot of issues that are ongoing in our community. And I collaborated with my friend Beneath, who's a writer. And then we're also introducing 2 new actors, brand new actors, and they can introduce themselves. So they can go ahead first.
Hey, my name is Puneet. I also go by Coffee as my artist name. I wrote on and like Ritu and I reached out to Ritu because we had always wanted to work on a project together, and we finally got the timing right. And I wrote the voiceover, and then someone else spoke it. Her name is also Beneath, and I'll pass it on to Ruvel.
Hi, I'm Ruvel Shergill, and like Ritu said, it's my first project doing anything. And yeah, when I was approached about it, it was honestly, I had a lot of questions about it, of course, because like I had to be this person that was I'd never imagined being, and it was a lot of fun though. It was really cool trying to be someone you're not, but it was a good time for sure.
Yeah. Thank you again, all you guys, for joining me today. Ruvo, I actually wanted to start off by just asking you about that, like, because like you said, you're brand new to like this acting and like in general, like putting on a performance, and like you said, it's something that you didn't think of yourself ever becoming like real life. Talk to me about like how that was, like how that experience was, like in depth a little bit more about like how did you come to like even get this opportunity? Like, what were the steps about that, and like, how did you like have to deal with becoming somebody that you didn't feel like comfortable with, like becoming, like you said, like it's nothing that you would ever do yourself?
Yeah, honestly, it was it's funny because when I had seen the post about it at first, Ritu, her brother, he's a really good friend of mine. I told him, I was like, man, I think you should do this, right? I was like, I think you'd be great. And he started laughing, and he's like, no, I think you should do it. And of course, boy talk, we're laughing. I'm like, no, why would I? And no, he's like, and then he started talking to me about it, and he's like, talk to Ritu about it, see how it goes. And when obviously, getting into contact with Ritu and Puneet, right off the bat, the first things they said was ask any questions. Like, obviously this is serious. And honestly, when I heard their answers and about how this is bigger than all of us here, like the three of us, counting Noor, also four of us actually, to be able to help the community, be able to get something like this out, it's a big deal for all of us. And that's also where the inspiration comes to, like, become this character Binder who there's a lot of males, females, or anything that are in our community that are this particular character, and to be able to play it, and then just to be able to be a part of something bigger than yourself, it's a really amazing feeling.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I personally watched it today, and it was like I just saw, to think that this is like your first time like putting on a character. It was very. I think it was also, again, with the words that were being said, and also like your and Noor's like acting in it. It really goes to show that there is talent within our community, and like you said, projects like these are not like typical for our community, right? And it's like the feelings and the message behind that project is also not something that's very well, like, conversation is not something that's talked about in our community as well. So it's like this was a very like big deal, and that's why I really wanted to have you guys all join me today, is because this is something that I think should happen more in our community, not only because we have the talent in it, but also because it's an avenue to portray messages that we can't just have through conversations. And just having this piece being put out, it's like it conveys so much more than just having like a simple conversation, right? Because you can always just say like, oh, I'm fine, or this. But like seeing somebody go through it, like your own eyes, that somebody that reflects like yourself. Like I know there's like movies and projects out there that like deal with this, but like there's not much in terms of like our community. So like seeing, like, put yourself in those shoes, I think is very key. And I'll let you like read. I'll let you talk a little bit more about like how the project came to be, because I know, like you said, this is your first project that you were able to make. And I'll let you talk about like how that came to be, where you got the idea from, and like the overall message of the piece that you wanted to convey, and hopefully you conveyed through shooting it.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what happened was I was very sure about how what kind of films I wanted to make right now, right? Like not in the future, not when I'm accomplished, but right now for like my student films. And I was very clear that my theme was definitely going to be about something. I wanted to basically shed light on a lot of the social issues within our community, because being like a Sikh American, especially like a female, it's very rare to already be going in the film industry and also to stand out. So my way of standing out, I'm not trying to highlight just like the bad things about our culture, right? It's more about just I'm trying to bring awareness and at the same time also shed a limelight on us. So that was kind of my approach, even when it comes to writing, even when it comes to any project I work on. So at the time, actually, I was working on this another short film I wrote. It's called Men Don't Cry. Do you remember how earlier we were actually talking about, men's mental health? That's basically what it was about. So yes, Beneath had reached out to me. She like, years ago, whenever we met, we always connected on our art. And we were always just like, Beneath, like I'll make a film and you like write it, and it was always in the air because we were younger, didn't have cars, and she's in LA, I was here. But then recently, like this year, she reached out to me. She's like, "Hey, dude, like I'm serious. Like, do you actually want to like do this?" And I was like, "Dude, like yeah, for sure." So as we were talking, she had similar viewpoints, on like the type of work she wants to do or the type of work she has done. So that's why like our ideas just started to flow. So while we were talking about this, she was like, Rita, what do you want to work on? So I told her, I was like, something with like kind of want to start with mental health. I was thinking more from like, the whole men don't cry film I was writing. But then she sent me the spoken word. It was a lot different. The first draft, it's changed a lot since the first draft, but she sent me this. She was like, what do you think about this? So I was like, okay, like, obviously at this point I have a poem and I have to, work my imagination. My imagination, my thinking. This opens up this whole like can of worms in your own head. Like your thoughts on that subject, right? Because there's no story. She just wrote a poem. You're just given a poem from that. I had to curate the characters or what's going on or what's gonna be shown in this really short video. So that's when Beneath and I just like talked and like we came up with these two fictional characters in that end. So and like you've watched in the film, there's no dialogues, so it doesn't even matter, right, if they had names. But I just felt like if we created two characters, gave them life, right, gave them personalities, because we put all that on the casting call, none of that is really shown in the film, but this was just to put like that character in the actor's head, right, so he could just feel a little bit more like the character. That's why we had like all these characteristics. So yeah, we started working on it, and then I don't know. I think what happened was I was probably lagging a lot because I had school, I had other projects, and Benita was like, "All right," because there was no real deadline. We were just like, "Yeah, let's just work on it." So like, then Benita's like, we considered sick cleanse, and at the time we got really lucky because when we were talking about this, they had just extended their application. So we're just like, it's like we have a deadline to chase. Let's do it. I was like, all right, let's do it. We like finalize, she's finalizing her writing. I'm like, I'll put a casting call out. The issue with the casting call, well, when we were doing that was a lot of people wanted to apply. It's just like whenever we would look at them, I just didn't get a feel. Same with Beneath. And I know that sounds ridiculous, right? Like they haven't taught, there's no addition. It doesn't even matter because they don't have that physical look, and sometimes that physical look matters. And in our case, which is going to be a silent film,
Yeah.
the looks mattered, right? So with Nude, Noor and I obviously, like we were friends before, and she always knew that I always talked about film, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I'll act," and because of some reason when I when I wrote Someone's characteristics, I could already imagine Nude. I don't know, maybe it's her face, maybe because she's my friend, maybe because we talk about film, but like I could already imagine her. There was another girl, we had like this audition set up. We almost would have picked her, but since this was a zero budget production and we're kind of just like finding our way in how it works, I just felt like I thought it was like more comfortable if I had my friends, like it's a new project and we're all working towards the same thing. So I ended up taking, Nude, and she was really happy and excited. And then we were stressed about our rural situation. Sorry, in their situation. We were stressed about it in their situation because I was like, oh my God, like, even though there are Inders that auditioned, it's the look. So then my brother had told me about Ruva, like, oh, my friend's interested. I did not take Ruva seriously at all because he's my brother's friend, okay? Like, it's just like, he's my brother's friend. He's not going to take this seriously. Or like, I don't know. It's just like, I did not know Ruva at all. So I would have never guessed like acting was that important to him. You know what I mean? But then when I like sent his pictures to Benit, she's like, "Oh my God, that's her in there." And
There's so much. I just want to like interrupt just for a second. I think it's so amazing to like get the background, because like you would think like it would be like such like a easier process, but it's like you're unpacking so much right now, and I just like and I keep laughing. For those that don't know, like me and Ruth, we met like so many years ago, and like I was talking to her before too. I was like, I don't know how I'll be able to host this well with her. She's like the one guest I always say, like I said this before. It was just like she's the one guest that can completely throw me off like when I'm speaking, because like her just laughing, like she's doing it right now. Like I could see her and I'm just laughing in my face as well. So I mean, like I am more than happy to be like that because it makes me laugh and makes me happy. But it's just like she's the one person I knew I would struggle with having on here, because I just keep laughing while looking at her, and then also like the way she but okay, go back to what you were saying. I'm so sorry. So you saw Ruvo and you were like, he's you don't know if he was gonna be serious enough, but then Beneath liked him. That's where you were.
for me, it was because like, anytime it's any of my brother's friends, like, you don't look at them like, you don't take them seriously. Like, you think they'll just like mess around because that's how my brother is. I know if he was on my project, he would take complete control of it and do whatever he wants. So, but I sent like look wise, okay, this is so funny. This could be really controversial, but I'm just gonna say it, okay? But we were just like, Rubo has like that F boy look.
Oh no. But
That-
I mean, I just want to get it, but I think it fit the character because that's what you were going for, no? So it's I think that's a plus. I don't know. I know it's controversial, but like, hey, if you're going based off of looks, you did a great job casting.
Right? So then I was just like, okay, we'll see. But it was like, all right, Vito, yes, like look at his face. And this is like we weren't even considering auditions, but then we did end up getting it, but like he knows what he's talking about. Like, all right, we'll go forward with it. And that's just literally, I think we had a call or talked about this probably for like a week or 2 weeks beneath, and then we started shooting. So that's literally how it was. And then we all just met. Like, Ruvu met everybody for the first time. Noor already knew Beneath and I, and then for like full like 2 days, like we were just shooting in NorCal.
Okay. I mean, again, you unpacked so much, and there's so much that I want to like deep dive on. But before I like go, I just want to like talk to like I wanted to ask Beneath. I know like you did like the writing piece of the film, and like Ritu said, there's no speaking lines of the two characters. It's more about letting the piece in the background speak. How did you come up with the piece, and like how did you get like basically your thought process of writing it and then also working on the project as well?
Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. I think, well, like Ruth said, like when we first started talking, actually, we were thinking about going more like the mental health zone for men, like men's mental health thing. And when I started writing it, I don't know. And at like when I was even like finished writing the first draft, I was still thinking it's still going to be very men's mental health oriented. And when Ritu and I started talking, we're like, this does not sound like a men's mental health thing. It's just more than that. It's not like that's just like the beginning of the conversation there. So we spoke more, and then I worked on the piece more, and then we finally were like, okay, you know what, this makes the most sense. And I think especially with our characters when we were
You muted yourself, Beneath.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
I think I clicked M. Sorry, but
No problem.
What part did you
I think it was just like when you were starting to write it, and then you also like you started deciding like this like going another direction with it after like writing it.
Yeah. So when we started writing it, I think like after that, we needed to, I think with the characters, the biggest thing was we needed to make sure they weren't these extraordinary or like super talented, just like amazing people. No, it's just regular everyday people like you and I. It's not just not people who are anomalies. It's just people you see every single day, but you don't know, just looking at their faces or looking at face, like just like face value, you don't know what's going on in between or like behind the scenes. So we wanted to make sure that the people, they look normal. And like we just said, like the characters, it was, even though we gave them these characteristics, it was more so whoever was going to audition, they would know what they were kind of going for. And for the audition, I think we had 3 questions, I believe. It was like, okay, where are you from, your name, your pronouns, and then also, I think like one of the questions, the most important one, I believe, it was like, do you think culturally there's something just around abusive behavior? Do you think our culture kind of, maybe doesn't completely speak out against it? Or do you think there's a way our culture actually not necessarily promotes it, but just like, I think turns a blind eye to it, or the blame goes to someone else? So
Yeah.
I think once we started kind of having those conversations, it was like, okay, we need to make sure our characters are just everyday people, because people who are in these situations are everyday people. And yeah, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's a key point, because even when I watched it, it was I was trying, because the scenario is very much a typical, I don't want to say typical, but it's something that you would imagine happening, right? It's like, even though these characters are playing a role, it's like something, and especially like I said, with the words in the back, it really conveyed the message of, I honestly think, like you said, it like our community has like this tendency to turn a blind eye to mental health. especially when it comes to relationship mental health. I think that's a even bigger like turn a blind eye for both like both sides of a relationship. It's not just one side of the relationship, both sides of the relationship. Like both sides get like basically if they speak out, it's looked down upon for either side. And I think that's a little bit conveyed in the project itself. Like towards the end, you can tell like Noor was just not like committed to the relationship as much as Ruval. Like he just kept saying it's okay. And that happens a lot because like the usually what happens is like one person has to sacrifice their mental and emotional health to make something work because of other factors outside of the relationship, right? I think the biggest like thing I can say is like when especially like when a marriage is like set up between two people that like the family set it up and stuff, there's like somebody has to make a sacrifice of their emotional health because they don't want to like let their family down or something like that, right? And that's very prevalent in our community. And I want to say thank you to all you guys for like portraying that, but like at obviously like a lower level of a relationship. But I feel like though that like that just carries on, like that type of behavior just carries on and gets worse and worse in relationships as time goes on. And unfortunately, nobody can, the person that's hurting the most can't speak out. And I'll ask Ruval again because I know like you talked again early about you didn't know about the like you were a little bit hesitant when you first learned about the project. Like what basically at what point were you like, okay, this is something I want to do? And then like and like the shooting and filming of it, like what were your thoughts of mental health, like of your own thoughts? Yeah, not like you played a character who kind of disregards those types of things, but I just want to know like as like you portraying that and stuff like that, how do you personally feel about that?
The first part, honestly, like again, the conversations we had, just thinking about it, I was like, this could be impactful, and that, in general, that means a lot to me. And then I was like, this it's a great opportunity to do that. It's a great opportunity to be part of something special, and once you get into it, once you start realizing what's actually going on, you create this vision, which again, Ritu and Puneet did a great job of like helping me visualize it. And it was like, this is incredible. This is something that we can actually like really pull off and do a really good job with it. And obviously, we have to be very careful. It's not the easiest subject in the world to talk about, touchy subject, and
Yeah.
so it kind of became like, why not? Why can't we be the first to talk about it? Someone has to do it. Why can't it be us? And about the filming and just the shooting part of it, I've always loved doing that. I took drama in high school, had a great time with it. Just I feel like I could get pretty comfortable with that, and that was a lot of fun. But of course, with the character being the way it was, I'd be lying if I told you there were parts that like I'd be lying if I told you it wasn't challenging. I mean, even I know Ritu, like like sometimes I'd be standing outside, like when we were shooting, and she'd be like, "You okay?" And I'd be like, this is. I was like, "This is it's a bit much," and because even when you're shooting, when you realize that there are people that are going through this, like every day, like there are abusive relationships that exist, and our community just really needs the conversation to get out there, and it really needs people to and realize like no one's away from it. We all have in some point known someone or have seen something that just like or have heard something that someone's going through, and it's time we really bring it out to light. And I think this is a great way that we get to do it.
Yeah. And I just wanted to like I think that's like you touched on something about like bringing it to the forefront, because as much as we try to say that like our parents or like the older generation is who tells us like, oh, don't open up and do this and that unfortunately is being like instilled into like the new generation a little bit. I know like again, like I can speak from personal experience. Just perfect. So last season we did do an episode about mental health and just emotional. How do you do self care? And I opened up a little bit that episode, and I think, and I got a little bit of a like some people asked me like, "Oh, are you okay?" And because I think I didn't really portray that in like real life. I think it was just because once I opened up a little bit, it was a little bit like in my past history, but still stuff that happens to you in past history still like carries on with you if you don't address it, if you don't talk about it. But I had a lot of people like text me saying like, oh, are you okay? And this, and they were just like, oh, we would have never expected it like from you. And I was like, and it kind of made me start thinking about like, okay, why wouldn't you expect, was it because I'm a male, or are you expecting that I'm not supposed to be sharing what I feel, or am I like, or do you just think like I'm this happy person that like nothing is wrong in my life? Like there was a lot of like questions that I started asking myself because of like I was just it was just like, it's one thing to ask me like, oh, are you okay, or this from hearing the pod, but like going on to the like the next thing about like, oh, I never thought you would be the person to like share. And I was just like, for me, it's something that I think really helped me in the long run. I have, again, my mental health. I've struggled with mental health a little bit at times in my life. I mean, everybody does. It's not like everybody's immune to it. Nobody's immune to it. Everybody at some point you're gonna have some rough patch that makes you like want to just sit down and just do nothing for a little while. And I honestly have said like I've had that a couple times in my life. And I think again in our community, that's not like, you can't even speak out about it. And I, again, like I just said, it's so great that you guys are exploring bringing those conversations to the forefront, but also in a way that's never been seen in our community before. Again, like having short films or some art pieces, like we had an episode last season about art pieces and um artistic values in our community, and how that's even like frowned out, like not frowned upon, but like it's not taken serious. Like becoming like an artist is not like something that, oh, it's like, oh, this. So it's like, even when we were talking about that, some people do convey their emotional, like their baggage and their emotional feelings through their art, and that's how they cope with it. um I'll digress a little bit now. Um, I just wanted to go and talk a little bit more in terms of like the mental health. I know Ruval, you just opened up and you talked about like having those conversations. Ritu, I just wanted to come back to you because you said this is like your first project, and you had a different, like you were designing a different project, but then while designing this or that project, you guys basically conformed it to something that looked, or this project. I just want to like let you talk about like how you can, one, like why do you feel like mental health is something that should be talked about, and the other thing about like how did that kind of made you do this project, and then how it's influencing your other project as well.
Well, okay, so I feel like looking in general in our community, right? Like the small, big, whatever the problems there are, right, within us, like when it comes to like inequality, sexism, social justice issues, or whatever. Um, and like the misogyny, right? I feel like that's why there's like certain problems because they're not fixed, let alone fixed and healed. They're not even addressed. So there can be no solution to these problems if there's no conversation about it. So I feel like, I don't know, I somewhat feel responsible since I am woke enough on that level to where I understand these things. I feel like it is my responsibility to educate others. And I feel like it's like that with everybody, right? Like if you know something, and I just feel like at that point you're helping the community. So that's kind of my outlook on it in that sense. When it comes to why I like chose to, switch up the subject and like, change it altogether. At the end of the day, it was still mental health. It's just like in this particular case, for example, we're basically saying someone's a victim here, right? Who's being abused by Inder. But my, even though like in the 3 minutes of this zero budget production, I probably did not portray that well. But what I also what my thoughts are behind this is that Inder was also kind of a victim in that sense because he grew up a certain way. And I'm not 100% trying to blame Inder either, right? Because this movie is also another portal to opening up a whole other discussion as to if he is this way, why is he this way, right? And I don't want to use the word blame, but I do want to say that he is this way because he's taught certain things, and he grew up in a community that expected him to think a certain way, and those things got embedded. That's why he is the way he is. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
Men Don't Cry, what I had already written, it already did kind of um, influence a lot of the way in there is, and just like the topic I wanted to start. So for example, right now we're already thinking about like, oh my god, we should do another a film, like, you know, Thun 2, not call it Thun 2 though, but reverse the like the roles, where this time Inder is being abused because this again, right, men's mental health. So I guess those are some things that I did have in mind. I thought it was really interesting and I'd love to go in more depth, but for that I just need more resources, more brains, more creatives. And I think like that could really like we could, you know, just from this one, just from these 3 minutes, me and Ruvel talked about this for hours, right? Those 2 days, but just like how many stories we can make from just one story. We could literally go back all the way back to in their childhood, starting from what he experienced to the way he is or why he views women differently. Like, you know, we say this in our community, men treat their sister different from their girlfriend and their girlfriend different from their wife. They have different expectations from them. They allow them to do different things. They're okay with different things. But why? Like, why is it not the same with women? You know? So yeah, so that's kind of like where my head was at while I was working on this. I think I answered your questions.
No, like I said, I feel I said before we started, like, and this has been true for every episode that we've done so far. I like we're just having a conversation here. It's never about like having concrete about answering the question, but I think you guys are all doing a fantastic job. Like I'm learning so much about like the behind the scenes that I didn't think about like when I first watched it, when I first thought about it. Like there's so much that I'm learning now. And honestly, I've said this before, and I've probably said this in almost every episode. I'm kind of cheating everybody else because I do these podcasts because I want to learn as much as I can about a lot of things. That's why there's so many various topics that like the season one covered was more about like I wanted to personally explore those things as much as I wanted to bring those conversations to the forefront of conversations outside of this podcast, but like having those conversations take over somebody else's conversation that they have with a friend or family member or somebody afterwards. And it's honestly like me just sitting here and trying to like learn. It's like there's just so much, again, like I said, there's so much being unpacked that I want to dive into so much more. But I just want to again just go back to Ruval. You talked about like sometimes when you were doing the shoots and you were trying to get into character, it was a little bit difficult for you. And I think that's like that speaks volumes, because to get to that like that kind of role or that kind of like character, it just like it made you like double take basically, or like make you thought like so much. I just wanted to like have like I just wanted to like let you unpack that a little bit, because I think that in itself is like that speaks so many volumes that some people just don't understand, that even trying to act in that side kind of way is so like detrimental. It's like so like bad for yourself, but also it's bad for those around you. And I'll let you talk a little bit more about like how what you experienced, how you coped with it, and how you basically got through that.
Yeah, like preparing for it and actually doing it are obviously two different things. Like you obviously, like, again, like when we all were having conversations before we're preparing for it, we were like, hey, listen, like I was told, like, you're obviously going to have to go into the dark place a little bit. And of course at the time you're ready. And being an actor, you have to do it. And then I mean, if you can't, then like why are you even there in the first place? But when you're doing it, or when you're portraying this character, when you have to do some things and you're just like, like you think for a minute, you're like, well, like really, like, is that what I'm gonna have to do, like to to just become this person? And again, like me and Rita, we had this conversation. I remember we were touching on it with Beneath as well during the shooting, like, about the character of Inder being someone that, like, we felt that he was a victim too. Like, this was someone that didn't want to necessarily be the way he was, but it's just circumstances, like upbringing or whatever it was the reason. And that did help. And then just going through the character, there came a point where the character of Inder, I started sympathizing with him more than I actually would, like, just hate. Like, it opened up a whole new door for me. I was like, like let's say if we were to hear news about someone that was like, or let's say we heard about a friend that had a boyfriend that was like mentally abusive, toxic, the words that we use for it. And again, which is wrong. No one condones that at all. But we're always quick to say that, oh, like, what a trash person, right? like this person just doesn't, like, they deserve so much better. How many times have we like sat down a minute and thought, hey, what has this person been through? Has this person ever even been like had someone to talk to about it? Again, like, I'm not saying that they're correct at all, but have like we never even spare a thought as to why a person is the way they are. No one wants to be bad. I genuinely believe that, and all of that added motivation to it. And then just behind the scenes, and I mean, we had a good time too. It wasn't like, obviously, like, I think after every scene, we'd sit there, we'd laugh. We actually had a laughing problem. Our first couple of scenes, we just, like you said with Ritu, you can't stop laughing.
It's that's like, I was just gonna say that again. Like, look at her, she's already giggling and smiling.
Yeah,
It's like before, I think it was either before you joined or when you had left a little bit. She said like she couldn't, like, when you guys were doing like serious things or like serious shoots, like she couldn't stop laughing herself. And I was like, yeah, I totally can understand and see that, because Ritu, that's just who Ritu is. Like, she can't stop herself from giggling or smiling.
No, can I share a story about that actually?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it was right. So like there's like a pool scene that we did in it, but right before that actually, so we were shooting this scene, right? And so the scene was even during the pool scene, I have a story for that too. But like, it was like we really have to get it done quicker, right?
Yeah.
And so Ritu was like, I have to be assertive, like I have to get this done. She's like, guys, we're gonna take this serious now. And everyone just like burst out laughing. Like, can you imagine Ritu? She's laughing too at herself being serious.
Oh, because I can imagine Ritu like trying to say that, but then I'm just like, it's coming from you, Ritu. You're gonna be the one that's gonna not make it serious.
You have one conversation with Ritu, you understand, she's a great person to talk to. Like, it's just that's that part was just really funny for us. Even in the pool, like, she was like, guys, we have to be serious. And, like that didn't help. But like that stuff made it like, just having a good time with them made everything so much easier. And like I really appreciate Puneet, Ritu, and then Noor also, like, just like it was a good environment to really just kind of open up.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to go ahead.
I want to add.
Yeah.
So there was this particular, there was like a fight scene. We just put a couple glimpses of, which was supposed to be kind of like the most intense and harder to shoot scene, where like, there's supposed to be a whole burst thing, where like he bursts at her and there's a little bit of, aggression and all that. So that's when, like, obviously, and Ruval was very hesitant at first, right? Because he's like, dude, like, I don't know if it'll be too much. Because like I said, it's a silent film, but when they talk, obviously they're talking about real things, right? And that's how you get the emotion out. You can't just be quiet while acting. So I was just trying to tell them, I was like, this is all improv, but this is kind of just like, when she like walks in with that short dress, he's supposed to react like, he's supposed to be mad and she's supposed to be annoyed. And then he calls her words, right? He yells at her and he's calling her words. And he was just really hesitant. Like, he's like, dude, like, I don't know if I could do it, right? Like I can't say that. And like, he's like whispering, like, dude, like, should I say this? Should I say slut? Should I say this? So me and my sister like, no, dude, think like he felt like this was his image. Like, does that make sense? It's being recorded. Yeah. He's saying he's not used to this. He's never said this. So I understood his headspace. But then, like, we just had a short conversation. I was like, dude, just don't think from your perspective. Think about Inder. Think about how he's feeling. Think about all the characteristics that we talked about. Like, he is this way. Think like how he would react because he's trying to control her. And this is like her going against you. So after that, obviously he did amazing. But yeah, so that's another thing. Like, how you said that it just, like, it could be so like dark, and to get to the other side, you just really have to be, in which I feel like he did an amazing job for his first role.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to, again, I think the process, and Beneath, you can talk a little bit about like how the process came to like Ritu just like explained like how it was difficult for you to try to get into that character and like say some things that you didn't want to really say. But then also, like, because this film, like, there's no like lines for the actors to say, it's more like it's a silent film for you guys in terms of like your guys' acting. So like I just wanted to, like, when you can talk a little bit about like how you guys came up with that concept, and then Ruval, you can talk about like how you guys actually went through with that, like how did you guys act without even like without saying, or like you guys knowing that like your guys' lines or whatever you guys said were gonna actually make the like the side, like that was like the you guys were not gonna speak, but like more about like just act it out. And then Beneath, you can talk about like how you guys came with that concept and now how you guys just want to have the poem be basically the voice of the entire project?
Puneet, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go. I think so. The way I saw it more so, it was like, especially you. I think the visuals, right, or in general, just like everything that was going on in the film, even the like written piece. It's like you're, oh, like I just like these intense emotions. It's the stuff of a million love songs. Every love song you listen to, you're going to experience or listen to this person expressing these emotions. Everything, especially Punjabi songs, it's like, oh, like your skirt so short, whatever, like it's always put out there, right? Or like a suit pakia or like cover up or something. You see it. It's normalized. And for me, like when I think like especially for like the visuals, it's like, okay, this it's this behavior is just so normalized. Like this expectation is just so normalized, right? Right there's like this image of like the good samskari like person and like pretty, like decent girl versus this indecent girl. And Ruvel, of course, he fell for this quote unquote decent girl. Um, and everyone, and that itself is like very like just like internal, like just like the misogyny. It's like, there's two different kinds of people who deserve two different kinds of respect or disrespect. um I just wanted to make sure there was just like emphasis on just those intense emotions, because it's like I said, like it's the stuff of every love song. Like, oh, like my heart's beating so fast, or this, so that. It's every love song you listen to. But what about when it's not in the positive way? What about when it's actually hurting you more than, giving you the butterflies? What if those butterflies are actually your gut telling you, shit, this is a bad situation? So I think that was just really what I wanted to be like put in the piece. And especially since the film does go from just like, I think between situations or moments, it's like what I really, really wanted to be portrayed, and it was the cognitive dissonance of a person who's in this situation, right? It's like on one hand, your partner is such a loving person, and on the other hand, it's like, are they really acting this way with me? Like, you're really just trying to put it together. You're really trying to piece together. That is terrible, first of all, for your mental health. You're constantly debate. You can't trust your own mind at that point. And I really, really, really just wanted that point to come across as clearly as possible. So that's why it's like, even in the written piece, it's like one moment it's like, oh yeah, I saw butterflies, you love me. And then it's like, you don't love me. Like, it just doesn't make sense. One moment you're seeing like all these happy moments with flowers. And then the next moment it's like, what's happening here? This does not make sense. So I really just wanted to focus on the cognitive dissonance a person in a relationship or a situation like that is going through. I think that was just the biggest point I really wanted to like go across. And the other thing is, I think you always hear it when people come, out the other side of that relationship. Thankfully, when they're out of it, it's like, it wasn't always that bad.
Yeah.
And you'll hear it so often. Yeah, because that person is continuously trying to keep you in that. And I'm not like, like Ritu and Rubo covered, it's not necessarily like, oh, that person's always been that way. They, it was behavior, whatever, that conditioned them to be that way. But I kind of lost my train of thought. But just that cognitive, it's just that hot and cold. Like, it's not healthy. I mean, in healthy relationships, I don't think that's you should be trying to do.
Yeah, I think you talked about that on and off. Like, sometimes like that kind of goes into like you thinking like, okay, if I say this, like what kind of response am I going to get back? And now you're trying to think of things that you don't have any control over in a relationship. And once you're in that space of like, you start like trying to think like, what's the next thing that's going to said to me? Or like, if I say this, like, where is this going to lead to? That's like things that it's very like bad for your mental health, because now you're trying to predict things that might happen, might not happen. And most of the times when you do like try to predict what's going to happen is usually like negative thought. That is just how humans sometimes are. Is just like, you always try to predict the worst because you want to predict, you don't want to hurt yourself in a moment. You try to already want to come to like terms with being hurt. So that's why like that's very like you're already hurting yourself before even anything even happens. And I think like that hot and cold, like you said, it's like sometimes it's like you have a normal conversation, but sometimes like, it sparks something that you didn't think was going to happen. And I think from watching it and listening to, because like I said, I watched the film or the short film all the way through just normally. Then I just listened to the like the audio version of like the background of the poem, and you could tell where there was a switch from her, like the narrator going from having these like love emotions or having these like romantic feelings to having these like questioning of herself and questioning the relationship and questioning like why is she still around, why is she still. And at first I didn't really catch that. I caught that with like how the actions were going, but in the words itself there you can tell where there's a switch from the romantic side of it to the okay, I might need to like get away from this or step away from this. There was I liked how not only through actions you guys were able to portray that, but through words as well. With the piece itself, it was very like, I think that's what made it very more like moving, because not only were the words changing, but also like the actions were slowly changing as well. And I think that's what made it really, really well. So, and then Ruval, I just wanted to come back to you and talk about just how you basically, Ritu, do you want to say something?
Yes, yeah. I wanted to say something regarding that really quick since we're on that topic. I don't know if you noticed, but throughout the film, there are some scenes that are black and white and some are color.
Yeah.
So there was something I was trying to say through that, and I was just like, if I didn't do it that way, we were just gonna have it black and white the whole time. But then I thought that it would be really interesting if I did all like the abuse scenes or like the fights in color, because black and white is like what someone wants to hold on to, right? Like those are the good memories. That's like what she wants it to be only. But the color kind of portrays the reality of like that's also happening. Like this is also part of the relationship. And so basically the black and white, you know how you're saying like there's a lot of like hot and cold in the spoken word itself, how like, you know, she's basically trying to convince herself that oh my god, these like irregular like physical feelings she's having is love. But really that was like, you know, Lane talks about this all the time, but it's really just like her body trying to tell her that like, you know, this is not right. So it's just that hot and cold of like, so that's another thing I just wanted to side note.
Yeah. And I think this goes perfectly into like what I was gonna ask Ruval, because I think when I first watched it, like I said, with them acting and the words, it kind of felt like because in like their acting they were like happy and they were romantic, you kind of overlook or over like you don't pay attention too much to the words. You just like you see them all happy, you see them, so you automatically convey the words being said to like happy thoughts and romantic thoughts. And but as you can see, as like the film or like the film went on, those thoughts were not about like pure romantic. It was more about like, is this right? Is this where I should go? Is this like, are these feelings the right feelings, right? And I think that's where the film like excels in and makes you really have a like a mental thought, is that okay, you're hearing these words being said in the background that might be perceived as romantic words, because like Puneet, you said like that's basically like the words that are being said are basically like what you hear in Punjabi love songs, always about like, oh, mera dil tarkda dil and stuff like that, right? And like you hear those words in the background, so you think like automatically you're thinking that, oh, like this is how she's feeling towards him and that. But maybe her heart was racing because she didn't think it was right. You know, maybe it's not just because her heart's racing for his love, more about like her heart's racing because she doesn't want to be there anymore, something along those lines. And that's where the film really makes you think a lot more than just what's you're being seen and what you're hearing. And then Ruval, I just wanted to transition into talking about like how you and Noor basically were able to like put this performance on an act, even though you guys weren't like using words to actually like convey what you guys wanted to convey, but you guys had to instead use your guys' physical emotions and like facial emotions to convey what you guys were trying to do in the scene.
Yeah, I mean, with Noor, you know, obviously, the fact that you don't have dialogues, you have expressions are everything. Like, you know, I know Puneet, I think she just stepped away, but like Ritu as well. They, you know, they really made that very clear too, right from the beginning. Was like, hey, you know, your expressions are everything. You know, obviously we don't have dialogues, and we all really wanted to, like, we all really came together to, like, we were like, hey, like, sometimes someone would think, hey, this shot is nice, and then we'd be like, no, hey, let's redo it. I think we can do better on the expressions. And it's for Noor as well, there were a lot of things I feel like that were tough because she had to play someone that was a victim, and so whenever we had to do these scenes or we had to do these expressions, it wasn't easy on her either, and she had to deal with that. And we both just throughout the whole process, we really just we were having conversations with each other, like, hey, listen, it's acting, like, we'll be okay, just like if you feel uncomfortable at any point because of anything, like, let it be known, and then well, we can stop there. And yeah, it was just a real process. And that's why we have a lot of effort that was put into this by everyone. It just the whole thing, by the end of it, it means a lot to everyone. It started from Ritu and Paneet, and me and Noor got to be a part of it, and now it's just kind of like it's big for all of us. It's put a lot of effort into it, like I said. And it was a really good learning experience, and just everything about it. It became almost like, didn't shoot for like a long time, but it became a real journey when you think about it. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Um, I've praised you guys and give you guys your guys kudos. I think it when I first, again, I watched it several times over, and every single time I would pick up something new. And I think read through and beneath this is like a credit to you guys. Because Ritu, you talked about how like some scenes were black and white and some were color, and that was on purpose. And like I honestly, like, now looking back, that makes sense. But when I watched it, I didn't pick up on that. So like that, there was like details that you guys put into it. Like I said, like, with the wording itself, like the detail that went into the wording as well, really conveyed that there was like details that you really had to just think about. And like it's not something that like you can watch once and you basically understand it. I had to watch it like a couple of times to just get an understanding, a basis of like, okay, what is going on? What does the situation really look like? And instead of just trying to put like my first thoughts to it, because the first thoughts would have been like, okay, Noor, or the character that Noor is playing, like she's the victim of this, and in there is just, or in there is very abusive, and because it's just because of how the acting went, that's very portrayed. But then once you start to like listen to the words, and you start listening, and you start looking through like throughout the film, and you try to piece it all together, you see that there's more meaning behind everything that's actually happened. And I think that's something that's a credit to both of you guys, is that you guys made every scene and every word in the background have like a special meaning to it. And sometimes like sometimes scenes, especially like in short films like this, like scenes are just filler scenes. I don't feel like any scenes were in this were like quote unquote filler scenes. Like every scene had a meaning to them, or there was a reason why that scene was put into the film. And Rita, you can talk a little bit about like, I'm pretty sure did you guys have to cut like anything out, or did you guys have to like go back and add stuff? Like, and that, I know like that's always used, like that's a process that always happens with like filming and stuff like that. So I just wanted to know, like, were there things that you guys had to like, okay, maybe we don't add that, or like, maybe we go back and we have to shoot this again and add that back into it.
Okay, so obviously there were a lot of like, that was a struggle because first of all, we only had like 20, okay, let's see, like 2 whole days to shoot. One whole day and full night we were up. We had all filled all nighters. And because this is our first time, when it comes to just like time management or the way scenes work out and everything, like I do that alone. None of us had any experience. We're just going into it and doing it the way we are.
Yeah.
So we were trying our best with the time we had, but like, so at this point, Beneath and I have all this footage and we have to make the best out of it, right? So there's one particular scene that took out a lot of our time and efforts. It was this pool scene, okay? And I wanted him to, clearly my inspo is too advanced. I need to look at my resources. I'm telling you, Gary, like from that, like this is shot in September from now, like I've already, my experiences and my networking have changed my perception of so much. I've already learned so much from our first film of how like I can make things better the second time, but like production wise. But I had a vision, which is, unattainable with, zero funds, but it was supposed to be like an underwater scene and it went perfectly with like this line. And it was so funny because I'm just like, all right guys, you're doing a pool scene, and my mom was like, oh, I can't swim. I was like, it's okay, like my sister knows how to swim, we'll take you out. I was like, I have to get this. we put all our time into this, but turns out, because I had to shoot it on my phone, because obviously I'm not gonna put my Canon, my freaking DSLR underwater. And it finally we got this like whatever version, and because all our other footage was on the camera, like it actually didn't even like work out when it came to editing. So that sucked because we wasted all our time. And when we look back at footage, I was like, wow, I could have done this better. We could have done this better. But it's just like I said, it was just our lack of experience. At 2 o'clock when you're shooting a scene on spot, like there's so much less your brain can give, right? So there I had like a lot of regrets in that sense. But like no, when it comes to like filler scenes, right, whatever you're saying, I think like towards the end it was both physically and emotionally very draining for both Ruvel and Noor. So like towards the end they'd had some scenes, a lot of scenes are like we threw like honestly if it's possible can you just come back? Well, we were all from different cities, like she's from LA, I'm from Bakersfield, he's from Chowchilla, and Noor's she was in Davis at the time. So it's not like easy for us to just all come together, pick a day and shoot because of our different schedules, because we're from different cities. So I mean, so yeah, there were some scenes, that like, and even they thought they could have performed better, or like their expressions or the way they looked and everything, but we tried to work with what we could. And okay, then another issue was just like story wise, right? We wanted each scene, each sentence to go exactly, like we wanted to be like a perfect visual parallel. But like I said again, like when we came back, it didn't work out that way because of timing issues. Like a scene was longer than the sentence or shorter than the sentence. So at that point, we're just like, okay, we can't make it exact. Like it's not possible. So at that point, we were just like, people will hopefully they understand, right? We're like, hopefully, like from all the details you actually shared, I'm surprised you caught on. Obviously, I was overcritical of myself in general when it came to the film. When I looked at it, like I was like, even Brito's like, bro, like we know what we did, but I think if we show it to random people, they'll give us honest criticism, like if they know what's going on, because it does kind of look random, right? Like you said, they're happy all of a sudden they're not. And then like it can be confusing. I thought it could have been confusing, but at that point I'm just like, dude, I can't do anything about it. It's my first film. I have to put something out there. And like I said, like, we all learn from it. I know what to do differently. But yeah.
Right. See, this is one thing about Ritu that I always she tries to sell herself short every single time she can. And like you don't like unpacking, you guys have unpacked so much and like told your guys' stories individually, like how you guys process about how this came together. And it's like 2 days of shooting, like you would think that, oh, that's like a lot, right? But and honestly, like that's like to get 2 days of shooting, and even like all this work that you guys had to all put together, like the writing piece, making sure it all would fit together and making sure the scenes were fitting and were right. There took so much time and effort, and it's just like I think that's something that's like overlooked in like the film industry. And this is now I'm going away from mental health. I'm just going into film industry now, because like some people, like I feel like some people just don't appreciate the amount of work that goes behind stuff. Like, yeah, you see 3 minutes, but you like there's so many hours and days of work that goes behind that. And that's why I just want to like again just congratulate all you guys for like the hard work that you guys put onto this. And like I said, I've grinded to make this come to what it is, and it sounded like you guys did the same with your guys' project. And I think this is just one of many things to come. Like Ritu, you already said, like you're already thinking about like the next project. You're already thinking about like basically how do we expand this one piece into multiple pieces? How do we explore what happens next? How do we explore? How do we get to that point? And like there's different avenues to explore there. From a 3-minute like short film, like there's so much more that can be done, right? And that's something that you've already, just being done with this project, you're already thinking ahead, and which is like insane. But that's how film is. Like you can't, like you just have to have your ideas flowing at all times, because if you're not, then you're not going to be able to make something that it's going to be like different or stand out. And I think this piece did really stand out and was different. And the only reason why I picked on the details or picked up was because I watched it like 6 times like today, and that was today. And because I had to like write questions, or like I had to be knowledgeable about what I was going to talk to you guys about, right? I can't show up here not knowing anything. That would just defeat the purpose of me being here. So like I had to really ask you guys questions or talk about things that like really were like detailed. So whoever does after listening to this wants to or watch it or explore that like side of things, like they can see like how much it actually goes into, how much the film actually goes into, and it just honestly be inspired to go have conversations about mental health, which the film covers, which we've covered a lot in this episode. But also film, like art, like this is our second episode that's featuring art and artistic values. And I think that's something that I want to, as a host and also as a basically producer of the podcast, I want to have those types of episodes where we display people's work of art, because honestly, like I said, in our community, it's very like just whatever, like it's not seen as something that you can make a career out of, or like by the older generation, of course, right? But it's not something that you can see that like the only thing that people think that art wise you can make a career out of is singing or something like that, but that's not true. And I think as long as there's people like you guys exploring those avenues, we'll get to that one day where this becomes something that is accepted just regularly. But with that, I am going to be starting to wrap up. If you guys want to talk about anything, Ritu, I don't know, how do people find the short film?
So actually, we haven't released it on platform.
Okay.
That's what we're actually going to announce today, right now.
Okay. Breaking news. I didn't know this myself. So
we didn't really probably discuss it. So I think it's ready.
I'm finding this out for the first time, folks.
So yeah, we're just lagging on this for a while because we couldn't figure it out because it's new. Rubo suggested New Year's, and then we're just like, all right, it's like a new year, like I don't know, is this like the right topic? Like it's just like we're definitely overthinking the shit out of this, right? Same thing with Christmas.
Yeah.
But like, are people really gonna be on their phones on Christmas? Like really overthinking? We discussed, we're like, you know what, last day of finals. And from my research, the last day of finals after like, community colleges, UCs, CSUs, it's the 17th. So if I'm correct, I think December 17th is when we'll drop it.
Okay.
Yes. And then probably my YouTube channel, it's gonna be my first video on there, and we'll also like slowly share it on Instagram. TikTok is like this new exposure thing because it's only like 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think December 17th will be the day we're gonna release it.
Okay, so you guys all heard it here. That December 17th. I'll have your YouTube channel, so send that, and I'll link that in the description. This episode will most likely drop before the 17th. So if you are watching this before that drops, listen to the conversations, develop your guys' own thought process about it, and then obviously please go watch it after it drops, and we'll be promoting it on our channel or on our Instagram and also on here, and then come back, listen to how it all went down, right, and how the process was, because we just spent the last, I don't know, hour-ish talking about it and talking about all the themes it possessed, all the overall goals and messages it possessed, but also all the work that all three of you guys, and plus Noor and Benita, the narrator, all you guys put into like a zero budget, basically. This is something that you guys took the time out of your guys' lives to go do, which is like, to go do is like something like big. Like I would have to like put like 7 days in advance to try to schedule in like a day where I can just go and do like something like this, right? So it's like, I just want to say like big congrats, and I can't wait for everybody else to watch it. I feel like now I'm one of those like interviewees that like get to watch it beforehand, and like I get to like now interview, but like it's like I feel so special. But yeah, so again, I'll have the link in the description. Please go subscribe to it so you'll be right when it's released, you'll be notified. And also subscribe to the JMC Chronicles. And like I said, we're always available on Spotify, Apple, and Google. And I think that's all. Again, thank you for all the support that you guys have given for season 1.
Thank you so much for having us. Really
no, thank you guys, all like 3 of you guys, for joining. And I know like Noor was supposed to join, but unfortunately she couldn't. But again, thank you for you guys for taking the time out. Benita, I know you just unmuted, so I think you might want to say something.
I just wanted to add just one thing. It's like if it gets to even like one person who sees the film and they're like, oh no, this, I can relate to this. I mean, I hope you can, but like just if it gets to even one person who's like, this sounds like something, I've been feeling. I think we kind of just accomplished everything we set out to do. I mean, it is our first project, but just like if it gets even one person, just one who's like, oh no, I can see someone else in this or myself in this. I mean, I think that kind of just accomplishes everything. So.
Yeah, and I mean, that's that's how this podcast started. I said, even if one person takes these conversations that I have with people that come on here and takes that conversation, has it with their friends or has it with their families or has it with stuff, or just goes into deep thought themselves after listening or while listening, that was good enough for me. But then to just see the support that we've built up till now, it's just made me want to keep doing this even more and more. I mean, to be honest, I'll leak some info of my own. Season 1 was only supposed to be the season 1. I didn't know that if we were going to do a season 2. That was just because of the workload that I have on myself coming into this year, and I mean, going obviously in the future of my life. So I'm happy to announce that we are doing a season 2. So this is season 2. So again, it wouldn't be possible without the support, and also wouldn't be possible by the amazing guests that we've had and the amazing guests that joined me today.
Amazing, dude. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you. And with that, without further ado, I will wrap it up and say that thank you, everyone, and I hope you guys have a good one. And Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.